But I would ask you to do this. Read the Bible. If you read the Bible, here's what you'll notice. It's not a book of myth and legend and fairy tale like so many other stories are. When you read the Bible again, you read that it's a story of historical places, historical people, historical events. Now, yes, it alleges that God did supernatural things in history. But if you read the Bible, you'll notice the great difference between the record of the Bible and what we would normally think of as just an outlandish myth or legend. In fact, books in antiquity that were written about biblical characters, that were embellished with myth and fantastic stories, those were widely seen not to be legitimate eyewitness accounts of things that happened. And that's why they were rejected by the early church and rejected by early Jewish leaders. Can you believe in a miracle? Well, ultimately it comes down to this, doesn't it? Whether you believe in God. Because if you believe in God, then you certainly have to allow for the possibility that when He wanted to, God could intervene in human history and do things that could not be explained any other way. I don't believe the presence of miracles should cause us to doubt the veracity of Scripture. Now, let me give you another thing to consider. If you're thinking about rational evidence for the Bible, consider the prophecies of the Bible. And let me just consider one type of prophecy. The prophecies in the Old Testament that predicted the coming of Jesus in what we commonly call the New Testament. According to Josh McDowell in his book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict, he identified 61 major prophecies that were literally fulfilled in the life of Jesus. These are things said centuries before that came true in the life of Jesus. Now, he quotes a man by the name of Peter Stoner, who wrote a book entitled Science Speaks. And he said if one person fulfilled just 8 of those prophecies, it would be equivalent to something to 1, the chances of that happening would be 1 to 10 to the 17th power. Now, I don't really understand that. I can't get my arms around that, but here's how he illustrated it. He said 1 to 10 to the 17th power is like somebody taking silver dollars and covering the state of Texas 2 feet deep in silver dollars, and then taking one silver dollar and marking it and just randomly throwing it somewhere in the state of Texas. He said if you blindfolded a person and parachuted them down anywhere in the state of Texas, 1 to 10 in the 17th power would be the chance that that person would randomly reach down into a pile of silver dollars 2 feet deep covering the state of Texas and pick the one silver dollar that had been marked. And that's just if Jesus had fulfilled 8 prophecies. If it were 48 prophecies, Stoner says that's 1 in 10 to the 157th power. That's mind-boggling. And yet there were 61 prophecies of Jesus in the Old Testament. The prophecies themselves lend credibility to the Bible. So there's rational evidence to believe that the Bible is trustworthy. But you know, maybe the biggest evidence is the practical or the pragmatic evidence. My grandmother used to have a saying, the proof is in the pudding. Maybe you've heard that saying. You know what that means is that there's a practical test. Don't just give me theory. I need to taste it. I need to see it. Does it really work? The question is, does the Bible really work in a person's life? Look at what Jesus said. Jesus said in Matthew 7:24 that everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. Now you remember, and I do, the story of the 3 little pigs. You remember the pigs in their first 2 houses, the straw and the dirt, and how the big bad wolf would just blow those houses down. But the last pig built his house out of bricks. And when the wolf came in and tried to blow that house down, well, you know the story. The brick house stood. Well, in the more profound teaching of Jesus, he reminds us that his words are like building a brick house. His words are like building our life, our family, our future on a solid foundation. And when the wind blows and the storms come, the house built on solid truth stands. Just talk to someone for yourself who believes the Bible, who reads the Bible, who tries to apply it to their life. They may not be perfect, but you know what? If you look at people who read and take the Bible seriously, just do a test. Is their life a train wreck? Or is their life strong and solid and successful? Now listen, Christians aren't perfect, and they've got plenty of problems. We all know that. But I got to be honest with you. The people that I know in life who are the happiest, whose families are the healthiest, who tend to have the strongest and most vibrant outlook on life, are almost always the people who take the Bible seriously. Let me challenge you to do this. Don't take somebody else's word for it. Read the Bible for yourself. Just pick it up and begin to read. Ask somebody who reads and studies the Bible where you should start. Maybe you can even talk about that in your group tonight. But just start reading the Bible. I'd encourage you to start in the New Testament, in a book like John, one of the biographies of Jesus. But just begin to read the Bible for yourself. Use a clear translation. The Bible's been translated many times so that we can understand its message. The NIV translation is a great translation. The New Living Translation is a wonderful and easy to understand translation. Use one of those translations that can help you understand it. And again, talk to somebody who reads the Bible. Get their advice and their input. Finally, let me leave you with a story. And to me, this illustrates the truthfulness of the Bible as well as anything I can think of. Let's suppose you were visiting a large city and you were downtown, and maybe you had stayed at a restaurant with a friend and hadn't noticed how late the hour was. And now you're leaving the restaurant and you bid farewell and you walk around the corner, and suddenly it dawns on you that you're in a neighborhood that's not too safe, and it's very late, later than you thought it was, and your car is a couple blocks away. You're walking in a city and suddenly you feel a little bit uneasy as you turn a corner and you see a gang of young men headed your way. Oh, 6 or 8 young guys, late teenagers, early 20s. And all of a sudden your heart begins to beat a little faster. Let me ask you this question. Would you be comforted if you got closer to those young men and you realized they were all carrying Bibles and they were coming home from a Bible study? My guess is suddenly, regardless of what you say you believe about the Bible, you'd probably breathe a little easier, because you know if those young men had just been spending their evenings studying the Bible and trying to apply it to their life, you probably wouldn't have anything to be afraid of. Now that's the practical test. The Bible works. It claims to be true. There is rational evidence to believe it is credible. And the practical test is it makes a difference in people's lives. That's why I think you can trust the Bible. I hope you have a great time tonight in your group talking about why we can trust the Bible and how we can learn its message and how we can apply it to our lives. Have a great time in your group tonight.